Good early morning, everybody. It's June 24, 2024. And right now, the criminals have just decided to pulse me on the left side of my body as I'm sitting here trying to record this. But I was going to record this a little bit sooner, but the criminals have put me to sleep with radio frequencies, which they tend to do on a regular basis. They get off on it. I don't know what it is, if it's just wasting my time or interrupting the flow of what I'm attempting to do, which is basically what they do, because anybody who has experienced the radio frequencies of putting you to sleep when you're not tired or when you don't want to sleep, when you wake up, you're incredibly groggy and discombobulated because you were in the middle of doing something and they interfered with your ability to complete whatever task it was that you were doing or whatever flow you were in the flow of doing. But anyway, I'd like to read from a blog. It's on being mobbed. And I remember locating this years ago when I was still living in New Jersey, when I was looking up real estate mobbing. And this individual has done a stellar job creating a blog on being mobbed and real estate mobbing. So this is the section of the website which is called onbeingmobbed.com. This is the recommended reading on being mobbed section. So I'd like to start from here. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and fights the algorithms and all the people that downvote the video. So this recommended reading on being mobbed, this is part of a blog. In August 2015, I created On Being Mobbed and started blogging about the crime that took me as a victim in the rarefied enclave of South Cedar Park, Seattle, and later on Albany, California. Along the way, I've come to better understand how this crime works and learned about the technologies that are involved and how they are likely applied. I've written blog entries that document the crime of real estate mobbing and forced eviction as it is expressed on the West Coast, because mobbing is a predatory crime with the underpinnings of right-wing politics and of hate. On Being Mobbed is written with the hope of getting the attention of investigative authorities, network and domestic security specialists, criminologists and forensic specialists who should be interested in how this crime unfolds, how the crime enlists and appears to spread across networks of block coordinators and captains from organizations like the National Neighborhood Watch, now partnering with Nextdoor, which has an active real estate component, as well as an emergency services disaster planning groups. Depending on my level of stress, my energy, and the moment, some of the blog entries are better written than others, and some may be far more useful than others in revealing how the crime works and pointing investigators, as well as other victims, in the right direction. The following is a short list of recommended reading on this blog, On Being Mobbed. Read the post from 2021 to 2022 to get some understanding on how property mobbing is grid warfare, and to gain some understanding of the sheer vulnerability of residential infrastructure. Note that this page is only periodically maintained and may not list some of the most recent and useful content. So he's saying this is infrastructure crimes. And these are some of the headings. Air conditioners are the entry point to the grid, and a postcard from Seattle South Park. Lighting and mobbers live off the land exploits. Gang stalkings invest in real estate. No money down. Part 2. Mobbing by Wi-Fi range extender. Mobbing infrasound and leaky feeders. Part 1 and 2. The Mobber's World of Wireless System and Hate Culture in Albany, California, Part 1 and Part 2. The Mobbers World Wireless System and Hate Crime in Albany, Part 3. Eviction by quote-unquote haunted house. So they'll pretend that your house is haunted to scare you out of your house. Or is it or isn't infrasound? Only your mobbers know for sure. The Mobbers World Wireless System and Hate Culture in Albany, Part 3. Austria is the new Cuba. And a few more notes on West Coast mobbing. Smart meters carry current transmission and the mobbers' radio. Do you hear that? Your smart meters carry current transmission and the mobbers' radio. Isn't that interesting? I think that is. Are you being harassed with radio frequencies? Infrastructure crimes, mobbing with interference, extraction by heat. Part 1, 2, and 3. Was the sonic attack of the U.S. diplomats in Cuba a drone or, quote-unquote, a neighbor attack? Good question. I wonder what the answer is. Was it a drone or a neighbor attack? So anyway, I'm going to delve a little bit more into this by reading some of the data, that mobbing data, you can visualize networks with NetSpot, an air tool for wireless capture. And mobbing is a predatory crime. They scam the aged, and why senior housing in mobbing locales like Albany, California should avoid Comcast services. So let me scroll up here and get to the meat of this. So now this is dated October 8, 2022. Gang stalking. Invest in real estate. No money down, part 2. What's the fastest way to drive a woman from her home? Stalk her, abuse her, frighten her. The mobbing of women may turn on what the predominantly male architects of this predatory crime think they know about the quote-unquote gentler sex. Women who are stalked run. Women who are abused flee. Time and time again, women give up their homes to escape violence. We are expected to do so. It's the price we pay to save our lives. Many women are forced to leave their family home in order to escape an abusive situation, like affordable housing options for women escaping abuse. If stalking works for abusers, it can be made to work for real estate speculators. The loss of home is the expected outcome, often the best possible outcome for a woman who is being abused. There's no denying it. Whether they work in government and medicine, on the floors of construction suppliers, mobbers are stalkers. They're abusers. If they weren't able to sublimate this behavior into mobbing and battering neighbors, they might well abuse their partners or children. Once they reap the rewards of a neighbor abuse, whether that of women, minorities, or the renters next door, they may turn the same tactics on their family. Like rape, mobbing is about power. Mobbing is a brute force assertion of power over codified civil law. As a real estate scam that takes the guise of gang stalking, mobbing monetizes stalking crimes. Real estate mobbing monetizes crimes against women, the elderly, and the disenfranchised. For male supremacists and haters who take women and uppity renters as their targets, gang stalking is not only the perfect crime, it is a lucrative sport. The crime of real estate mobbing focused on defeating the civil rights of victims by convincing them that the boogeyman is out to get them. uses techniques of stalkers from the trusted positions of neighbors. The participation of block captains and coordinators confer the criminal stalking of the residents whose proximity makes her victim with legitimacy. The block captain, whose role defines her as an intermediary between local government and their neighbors, stands between her victim and the city policing and emergency services that should help victim and any legal resident who is attacked in their home. What does a block captain do? Asks the City of Albany Block Captain Manual, whose title page bears the seals of the City of Albany and the Albany Fire and EMS Emergency Medical Services. According to the manual, among other things, the duty of the block captain is to, quote, serve as a liaison between the City of Albany and her neighbors, unquote. These roles are the slippage between the bad acts of government and organized crime. They locate away from City Hall and make it easier for local government to ignore the bad acts and escape liability. Not only do you have the utility company, the police, and the city giving you the runaround when you report the sabotage of your electrical system, but you have the community police referring you to the police and back again when you report the involvement of the block captain or coordinator. The block captain or coordinator represents the corruption of local government. Keeping criminal forced eviction at arm's length from officials whose activities are subject for greater scrutiny. Officials who should be held accountable. It reminds me of running into an old family friend as an adult. I asked him about his work, as I think it was, as San Francisco building inspector. I remember how his sentence trailed off with the words, quote unquote, so much corruption. I wonder what he would think if he really knew. When mobbing is a tool of right-wing watch groups and conservative terrorist investors whose experience your civil rights as an impediment to their profit-making ventures, stalking is legitimized and even socially redeeming. Real estate mobbing provides socially acceptable relief for those whose personality defects can only be assuaged by preying on women. Real estate mobbing displaces violence onto neighbors, allowing for its discharge outside the family. The selection of stalking as a strategy to evict and discredit an indication that this crime targets women. It seeks to systematically terrorize women out of their homes. Stalking is about the creation and use of fear. The dynamics of mobbing perform best when the victim is made to fear, and women as a gender are taught to fear in a way that men are not. Women who close the windows and pull down the shades at dusk. Not like my elderly relative, ensure that mobbing substrate stays in the house to wreak havoc on household systems, even if you do not hear it. Women are expected to feel unsafe living without men or living in neighborhoods where cars are broken into and strangers park out in front. When women feel unsafe, they are expected to move somewhere safer, somewhere smaller, somewhere more manageable. Heterosexual women, especially older women, whose gender role is typically excluded oversight of the household systems, including plumbing, electrical, communications, may be more easily taken when the crooks next door sabotage their infrastructure. So guys, I'm going to end here. This is a very voluminous website. I mean, there's link after link after link, but I just wanted to bring you a little highlight from this blog that somebody has been talking about real estate mobbing, on being mobbed, adventures in a hostile Seattle neighborhood. The website is onbeingmobbed.com. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of delving into the real estate mobbing. It is a method of forcing people to leave their homes, evicting them. Back in the day, it was called blockbusting. Blockbusting was outlawed. So now people are utilizing other methods to kick somebody out of their home. Please hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and I will talk to you soon.